I never imagined a thin piece of plastic could upend my entire life. They say betrayal from friends hurts once, but betrayal from bloodkin shatters your heart into 1,000 pieces. I learned that truth in the spring of my 29th year, right in the heart of Boston, the city where I'd chosen to build my career and dreams. My name is Hannah Carter, owner of a small marketing firm called Carter Strategies. It's not a corporate giant or a famous brand, just a rented office on Boylston Street with a handful of passionate young employees. But to me, it's everything. Every signed contract, every returning client was earned through sleepless nights, skipped breakfast to save money, and tears swallowed in silence. I carried not just my own dreams, but the weight of my family's expectations. To them, I was always the responsible daughter, the one who could handle anything. Just as my business was gaining traction, my mother, Lorraine, was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. Though insurance covered part of it, the costs for medication, recovery, and post-op care far exceeded her means. Seeing her in that hospital bed, her face gaunt but her eyes still proud, I knew I couldn't stand by. I opened a new credit card with a modest limit, just enough to cover her immediate medical bills. I thought, one more burden won't break me. I'm used to carrying the load. But life isn't that simple. A few weeks later, checking my accounts, I found a string of suspicious transactions. Not a few hundred or $1,000 here and there. The number took my breath away. Over $100,000. And it wasn't from the new card for Mom's bills. It was from a corporate gold card for Carter Strategies, one I thought I'd lost long ago. I tore through my files. That card was for business expenses, issued with a high limit for marketing projects. Since the company was small, I'd locked it away to prevent overspending. Yet now, it showed up in transactions for first-class plane tickets, five-star hotels, and endless receipts from luxury brands. I felt sick. Each number was a slap, turning years of hard work into a mockery. One question pounded in my head. Who used that card? The answer came faster than I expected. Scrolling through social media, I saw photos of my sister Melissa, beaming under Hawaiian sunshine. A bright red cocktail in her hand, designer sunglasses covering half her face, the backdrop of turquoise seas and white sand. Each post was tagged clearly: Honolulu, Maui, Waikiki. And strangely, the timestamps matched the transactions from my corporate card perfectly. My hands shook so badly I dropped my phone. Melissa, my half-sister, 3 years older, who lived her life making reckless choices, did this? I didn't want to believe it. I prayed it was a mistake. But when I went to Mom's house to confront her, that faint hope was crushed in seconds. Mom, I took a deep breath, showing her my phone screen. Do you know what this is? She glanced at it, frowning slightly. Then, to my shock, she reached into her purse and pulled out a gleaming gold card. I froze. Oh, you mean this? She said casually, as if discussing a grocery mix-up. I thought it was mine. Melissa asked me to hold it, so I kept it in my wallet. My voice trembled. That's my company card, issued to Carter Strategies. It's not yours, and it's definitely not hers. Lorraine hesitated, but there was no trace of remorse. Her eyes, instead of guilty, seemed to search for an excuse. Then Melissa walked in, her blonde hair reeking of expensive perfume, her face tanned. She looked at me, smirking. Thanks to your card, Hawaii was amazing. You should try it sometime. Life's not just about work. I felt my heart crack. No apology, no regret, just arrogance, defiance, and disdain. In that moment, I understood a bitter truth. This wasn't just sisters borrowing money. This was financial fraud, a crime that could destroy the career I'd built. If I let it slide, not only would my reputation crumble, but my small company and the employees who trusted me would be buried too. I looked at Melissa, struggling to stay calm, my throat tight. Do you realize what you've done? This isn't just money. It's my honor, my career, my future. She shrugged, pouring orange juice, as if I was overreacting. Mom sat silently, turning away, letting the heavy silence choke the room. I wanted to scream, cry, throw the card in her face, but instead I clenched my fist, took a deep breath. I knew from that moment there was no turning back. That was the day I realized the most dangerous enemy isn't always a stranger. Sometimes it's the person sitting across from you at dinner. If you've ever felt the sting of betrayal from family, you'd understand my pain then. Not just a debt, but a wound that doesn't heal easily. What would you do if your career, honor, and family were all on the same scale? Share your thoughts below, because I believe this story isn't just mine. It's a wake-up call for anyone enduring in silence. Some wounds don't bleed but throb with every touch, as if each graze reopens lost trust. After confronting Melissa and Mom, I barely slept. Her mocking laugh echoed in my head, and Mom's averted gaze made me feel like an outsider in the home I'd fought to preserve. I started digging. That night, in my small Boston apartment, I opened my laptop and accessed the company's bank account. The cold numbers stared back. Hawaiian Airlines, $4,500. Four Seasons Maui, $12,000. Louis Vuitton, $3,800. Tiffany and Company, $5,600. Each transaction was a knife to my heart. I checked the login logs and froze. The IP address, device, and timestamps all pointed to Melissa's iPhone. No doubt left, my sister did this. The next morning, I went to the office of Maya Hensley, my lawyer. Maya, about 40, with neat brown hair and eyes sharp as a blade, wasn't shocked when I explained. She tapped her pen on the desk and said bluntly, "Hannah, this is serious fraud, not a sibling loan. This could lead to civil and criminal charges." I swallowed hard. Part of me felt relief. Someone was finally on my side. But another part ached. Could I really take my sister to court? Maya continued, her voice firm. "If you let this go, you'll bear the consequences. Your company, your reputation, your finances, all will collapse. Do you want to save your sister or yourself?" I stayed silent. Her question echoed in my mind for days. I tried one last time with Mom. In her hospital room, where she was recovering from surgery, I sat down, choosing my words carefully. "Mom, I have proof. All the transactions came from Melissa's phone. This isn't a small mistake. It's financial crime." She looked at me, her eyes sunken with fatigue, but her voice was ice cold. "Hannah, you're blowing this out of proportion. It was just a mistake. Don't make a scene. She's your sister." I choked up. For years, I'd accepted Mom's favoritism toward Melissa, but this was different. This wasn't just bias. It was indifference to a crime that could ruin me. "A mistake?" I clenched my fists. "Do you know she used the company's name to splurge, risking my entire career? You call that a mistake?" Mom turned away, avoiding my gaze. In that moment, I knew I couldn't expect fairness from her. That evening, my phone buzzed, a text from Melissa. "You wouldn't dare, we're sisters." I sat still, rereading the words. She wielded sisterhood like a shield, thinking it erased all sins. But in me, that bond was already torn. I screenshot the text and sent it to Maya. The following days, I gathered evidence. Every bank statement, Instagram check-in, taunting text. I compiled them into a thick file. The more I saw, the clearer the picture. For years, Melissa and Mom had taken my sacrifices for granted, treating my assets and honor as their personal playground. But as I neared the truth, my family turned up the pressure. My aunt called, "Hannah, don't air this publicly. You'll shame the family." A cousin texted, "Do you have to be so harsh? She's your sister." The same refrain echoed, "Let it go for family." I sat in my apartment, watching Boston's bustling lights. Out there, people built their lives, but I was trapped in a family that saw my sacrifices as duty and betrayal as trivial. I wondered, if I gave in now, what would I have left? That night, I decided. I texted Maya. "We're going all the way. I can't stay silent anymore. I'll sue for my honor." Sending that message, I felt both trembling and relieved. Trembling, knowing a storm was coming. Relieved because I'd chosen truth. My family began to fracture that moment. No more warm dinners, only accusations and glares. I knew my choice would make me the traitor in their eyes. But sometimes to protect yourself, you have to accept being the villain. What do you think? Would you stay silent for sisterhood or stand up for honor and justice? Comment why if you find this story compelling and want me to continue, or and if you think I've gone too far. They say family is where you return. But for me, as days passed, that home felt like a battlefield, where bloodkin wielded weapons against each other. I never imagined a day when my sister would publicly turn everything into a joke. After texting Maya that I'd sue, I expected Melissa to back off or negotiate. I was wrong. One morning, opening my phone, the first headline hit me: Living the Luxe Life in Hawaii, with photos Melissa posted publicly, close-ups of cocktails, designer bikinis, captions taunting, "Some people just work, I know how to live." Her friends commented with mocking laughter, while I sat frozen. Not only did she spend my money, she turned her betrayal into a spectacle, daring me in broad daylight. Rage and shame surged in me. I imagined colleagues and clients seeing those posts. The reputation I'd built so carefully could vanish with one click from my sister. But the nightmare didn't stop there. One evening, leaving the office, I returned to my Tremont Street apartment. Stepping into the parking lot, my heart sank. My car's windshield was shattered, glass scattered across the front seat. I stood frozen, chilled to the bone. Someone had deliberately vandalized it. In that moment, I knew Melissa wouldn't stop at words or mocking photos. She had influence with people willing to do dirty work. Shaking, I called the police, but I also realized I needed evidence, not just to blame her in my heart, but to prove to the world I wasn't making this up. The next day, I bought security cameras, installing them in the parking lot and at my apartment door. Days later, they caught a man approaching my car at midnight, smashing the windshield with a bat. His license plate was clear. I sent the footage to Maya. She nodded, her voice icy. "Perfect. This adds to the lawsuit. They thought threats would scare you, but this proves their malicious intent." For the first time in days, I felt I wasn't alone. Soon after, the Boston District Court issued a summons for Melissa. The thick document, stamped in red, made it clear this was no longer a family matter. It was the law. Word spread faster than I expected. Within a week, our small community buzzed. Some pitied me, praising my toughness. Others whispered I was cruel for taking my sister to court. And predictably, Mom, Lorraine, sided with Melissa. At the hospital, she looked at me with reproach. "Hannah, do you know what you're doing? She's your sister. Why turn family matters into a public circus?" I choked up. "Mom, I didn't make this a circus. She made my honor a joke. I can't let that go." She shook her head, tears welling. "You're too harsh. People will say I failed as a mother. You're shaming me." I bit my lip, fighting tears. It took all my strength not to break. In her eyes, the daughter who sacrificed everything to care for her, to hold the family together, was now the ungrateful one for demanding justice. Messages from relatives and old friends flooded my phone. Some urged me to cool off. Others hinted I was jealous of my sister. The world seemed to turn its back. But deep inside, a steady voice said, if I backed down now, I'd lose everything. One night, in my apartment, I watched Boston's lights through the window. I recalled my early entrepreneurial days, the rejections, the trembling thrill of my first signed contract. I'd come too far to let anyone, even my sister, destroy it. When Maya showed me the draft lawsuit, I read every page. The evidence stacked up: bank statements, Instagram check-ins, taunting texts, vandalism footage, and the summons. Looking at that pile, I felt both pain and resolve. Pain, because it proved my family had become a battlefield. Resolve, because it showed I was strong enough not to fall. The climax came on a Sunday evening. Relatives gathered at Mom's house, not to check on her health, but to pressure me. Each had a say. "Hannah, let it go, or you'll lose your sister." "Hannah, you're cutting your family's roots." "Hannah, money can be earned again. Don't make blood your enemy." I sat there, hearing every word, every glare aimed at me. They didn't see my trembling heart, the humiliation I'd borne. They only saw a stubborn girl daring to challenge the family's habit of excusing wrongs. Finally, I stood, my voice shaky but firm. "No, I won't back down this time. I can't let my life's work be destroyed just for sisterhood. If you want to pick sides, go ahead. I choose the truth." The room fell into heavy silence. That night, back in my apartment, I recorded my thoughts. I knew from this moment it was no longer just family business. It was a legal battle where justice and kinship would clash, and I, despite the pain, was ready to fight. Family had become a stifling battlefield, no longer a warm embrace. But I knew sometimes you must cross that battlefield to find true freedom for your heart. If you want to hear more stories like mine or relate to my struggles, check out my previous videos on this channel. Some events hit like lightning in a clear sky, forcing you to set aside disputes to face what truly matters. For me, that lightning was a midnight call from Massachusetts General Hospital. I was alone in my apartment, my desk cluttered with lawsuit papers. The golden lamplight reflected my tired face in the window. My phone buzzed. A gray voice said, "Ms. Hannah Carter, your mother Lorraine was just admitted to the ER with a sudden spike in blood pressure. Please come immediately." I froze. All the anger and resentment of recent weeks vanished, replaced by primal fear, losing my mother. Without thinking, I grabbed my coat and raced to the hospital in a taxi. The hospital corridor glowed with fluorescent lights. Footsteps echoed, the smell of antiseptic stung my nose, tightening my chest. I bombarded the nurse with questions, then rushed to the ER. Through the glass, I saw Mom lying still, her face pale, IV tubes in her arm, the heart monitor beeping steadily. I pressed my hand to the glass, my throat tight. Lorraine, the woman who'd been fiercely proud, sometimes cruelly so, looked small, fragile. In that moment, I forgot the summons, Melissa's mocking smirks. All I saw was, "This is my mother." Despite her favoritism, her blame, her turning away, I could never abandon her. When allowed in, I approached her bed, trembling, and sat beside her. Her hand was cold in mine. I whispered, "Mom, I'm here." Her eyes slowly opened, looking at me with surprise and weakness. Her voice rasped, "Hannah, why are you here? After everything?" I bit my lip, holding back tears, forcing a smile. "Because you're still my mom. You can blame me, call me cruel, but I'll never leave you." My throat closed up. For years, I'd wondered if she truly loved me or just the dutiful daughter she wanted. But now, beside her bed, I realized my love for her never wavered, despite every wound. I didn't notice Melissa arrive. The door creaked and she stepped in, her hair still scented with perfume, her face tinged with worry. She stood silently, watching me hold Mom's hand, my voice steady but trembling. In the dim light, I saw her eyes flicker. Gone was her usual smug smirk, her biting challenges. Just the silence of someone facing true forgiveness for the first time. I said nothing to her, didn't even turn. I just sat there, holding Mom's hand, whispering small comforts. Later, Mom cried. Tears rolled from her gaunt eyes. She squeezed my hand, her voice broken. "Hannah, I was wrong. You always carried the weight, and I was blind. I favored her, and I know, I hurt you." My heart felt crushed. Years of resentment melted into sorrow with those words. I pressed my forehead to her hand, letting tears fall. "Mom, just knowing you see it is enough. I don't need apologies. I just need you to live, to stay." The room was so quiet I heard the heart monitor's steady beeps. In that moment, I realized, sometimes a late admission can mend the deepest cracks in your heart. After the doctor confirmed Mom was stable, I sat in the corridor, my mind blank. Melissa sat a few chairs away, silent. I didn't look at her, but I knew something in her was shifting. Maybe, for the first time, she saw forgiveness wasn't weakness, but strength. I hadn't forgiven her, but a small light cracked open in my heart. The next day, I returned to the hospital with snacks Mom liked. Entering, I saw Melissa adjusting her blanket, her movements awkward but sincere. The sight softened my heart, though my mind urged caution. Mom looked at us, her eyes tired but brighter. She said softly, "My girls, don't make family a battlefield anymore. I've learned, family is worth more than anything." I stayed silent. Words are easier than actions, but at least a door had opened. That night, back in my apartment, I sat by the window, watching Boston's glowing lights. The rage in me no longer burned. Instead, a quiet hope flickered. Maybe, the fragile but enduring bond of motherhood reminded us that, despite betrayal, there was still a chance to heal. I told myself, I'd pursue the legal path, but with a lighter heart. Because truth must be protected, but family deserves a chance at redemption. They say court is for strangers to face off, but that day I sat as the plaintiff facing not a stranger, but my sister. That morning, Boston's sky was overcast, gray clouds like a heavy curtain over the city. I entered the district court with cold hands, my heart racing so fast it felt like it might burst. 1,000 questions swirled. Am I strong enough to face this? Am I right to bring my sister to justice? The courtroom door opened. Everything became clearer than I'd imagined. Melissa was there, in a simple beige sweater, her makeup light, hair neatly tied. A carefully crafted, remorseful image. But closing my eyes, I could still see her laughing under Hawaiian sun, cocktail in hand, reveling in my stolen honor and effort. She avoided my gaze, her lips slightly pursed as if asking, "You're really doing this?" I sat, clenching my hands, reminding myself this isn't revenge, it's for my name. The trial began. Maya stood, her voice sharp as a blade, echoing through the room. Your Honor, we have clear evidence that the defendant, Melissa Carter, used Carter Strategies' corporate credit card for personal expenses, totaling over $100,000. Additionally, she threatened the plaintiff by damaging her property. She presented the evidence: bank statements showing Hawaii transactions, Melissa's Instagram check-ins, matching dates and locations. Her text to me: "You wouldn't dare, we're sisters." Video footage of the car vandalism, linked to her acquaintance's license plate. Each piece was a hammer striking the truth. The room was silent, except for the clerk's scribbling. When my turn came, my legs shook, but I stood. My voice started shaky but grew stronger. "I'm not here for revenge." I looked at the bench. "I'm here to reclaim my name. My sister didn't just take money. She took the trust I had in family. She took the honor I spent years building. Worst of all, she treated her betrayal as a joke." I took a deep breath, then continued. "I used to think silence kept the peace, but I learned my silence fed their disrespect. I can't let that continue." In that moment, I saw eyes in the room waver. Some teared up, some looked down. I knew the truth had touched their hearts. The judge banged the gavel, moving to sentencing proposals. Maya stood, ready to suggest a harsh penalty, but I raised my hand to stop her. "Your Honor," my voice was oddly calm, "I have a different request. I don't want to destroy my sister. I want justice. I ask for leniency. I only want her to repay the full amount to the insurance company and undergo financial oversight as needed." The room fell silent. I heard my own heartbeat and the shock rippling through the air. Melissa looked up, eyes wide, disbelieving. All this time she thought I'd crush her to satisfy my anger. But she didn't understand I chose a harder path: forgiveness. I knew many would call me foolish, but I believed punishment isn't always destruction. Sometimes, giving someone a chance to make amends is how you protect yourself from endless hate. When the judge issued the temporary ruling, Melissa must repay the full amount and face 3 years of financial oversight, I exhaled in relief. Not because I won, but because I was no longer haunted by the shadow of a betrayer in my family. In that room, I realized justice isn't just a red stamp or a penalty, it's choosing to keep your heart from being consumed by hate. Leaving the court, Boston's afternoon was still gloomy, but my heart was lighter. I walked slowly down the stone steps, feeling the cold bite my skin. Maya walked beside me, her eyes a mix of pride and surprise. "You did something not everyone has the courage for," she said. I smiled wearily. I didn't want to become her, taking from others to fill myself. I want to live free. That night, in my apartment, the golden lamplight fell on the court papers. I held a warm tea mug, looking out at Boston's twinkling lights. My heart no longer trembled. I saw clearly I'd taken another step toward freedom from betrayal's chains. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Justice might resolve the surface, but the roots, the family wounds, remained. I still had to face Mom, Melissa, and all the cracks from years past. A year can feel endless if lived in resentment, but it can also be fleeting when spent healing. 12 months after that fateful trial, looking back, I'm no longer the trembling woman on the witness stand. I've changed, not because I forgot, but because I learned to move forward from the ruins. Boston welcomed a new spring. Trees along the Charles River sprouted fresh leaves, corner cafes opened early, and I, Hannah Carter, felt calmer than ever. News of Melissa trickled in through mutual friends and occasionally Mom. After the ruling, she was ordered to repay the stolen funds to the insurance company and undergo 3 years of financial oversight. She also had to perform community service, cleaning parks, serving at soup kitchens. Hearing this, I felt a strange pang of sorrow. I'd once dreamed of her being humbled, stripped of her boasts, but when it happened, I felt no triumph, only a quiet pity. They say a fall can turn the arrogant humble, and it seemed to be happening with my sister. Someone mentioned she'd interviewed for retail jobs, seeking modest wages. I didn't know how far she'd get, but for the first time she was earning her own money. Mom, Lorraine, changed too. After her health scare, she seemed to wake up. Slowly, she tried to mend things with small gestures, a goodnight text, a dinner invite, a health check-in. One afternoon at her old house, she held my hand, her eyes full of regret. Hannah, I know I favored Melissa too much. I feared she'd collapse without me, but that favoritism hurt you. I'm sorry. I didn't respond with grand words. I just nodded, smiled, and placed my hand on hers. Forgiveness doesn't need drama. Sometimes it's just quiet acceptance, lightening the heart. I still limited toxic contact. I blocked Melissa on social media, kept direct interactions minimal, but deep down, I followed her. Not to control, but to ensure she had a chance to rebuild. I believed Mom and Melissa, despite the pain they caused, deserved a shot at redemption. That following was like watching someone learn to swim in rough waters. I didn't dive in to save them, but I'd call for help if they were drowning. I kept my distance, enough to protect myself, enough not to turn away completely. Carter's strategies entered a new phase. After the lawsuit, some clients were skeptical, but through transparency and resilience, I regained their trust. Over the year, we signed major contracts, enough to expand the team. I felt not just responsible but a true leader. More importantly, I was no longer haunted. I learned to set boundaries. I stopped doing everything to please others, stopped staying silent when belittled. I learned to say no, and that gave me something more luxurious than any designer item: peace. One spring afternoon, passing a familiar jewelry store on Newbury Street, my eyes caught a gold bracelet in the window. Simple, delicate, yet elegant. I walked in, tried it on. The gold gleamed in the sunlight, a reminder. This wasn't borrowed or stolen. It was my choice, bought with a card in my name, the name I'd defended to the end before the law. Signing the receipt, my hand trembled, not from regret, but from realization. This bracelet wasn't just jewelry. It was a symbol of independence, of reclaiming control of my life. That evening, alone by my window, I watched the bracelet glint under the lamplight. I recalled my grandmother's words. Those who truly love you don't demand proof. Real love doesn't test through sacrifice. Once I thought love meant enduring, sacrificing without question. Now I understood. Forgiveness doesn't mean reunion. It's setting boundaries, protecting yourself, but leaving a door open for change. A year after the wreckage, I realized I didn't need my family's approval to know my worth. I didn't need resentment to prove my strength. I just needed to live, to keep walking my path, with a heart that learned to forgive without forgetting to protect itself. Looking back, the greatest treasure wasn't the courtroom victory or the bracelet on my wrist, but the lesson about family, justice, and forgiveness. Betrayal from kin can break you, but from that pain, you learn to stand, to set boundaries, to protect yourself. I learned forgiveness doesn't mean returning to how things were. It's freeing yourself from resentment while giving others a chance to change. Family isn't just blood, it must be respect, trust, and fairness. If this story touched you, perhaps because you felt similar wounds, I hope my journey gives you faith that from ruins, we can be reborn. Share your thoughts in the comments, follow my channel, and share this video to spread the message. Everyone deserves a chance to start over, and we all deserve to live in equal, healthy love.